It's me, Gengar Collects ASMR, and today we're going to take a look at some cards I've recently purchased with the intention of grading them with PSA or perhaps another grading company such as C, G, C, or B, G, S, aka Beckett. We're going to take a nice, relaxing, close look at these cards, assess the condition, and decide what we think the grade might be. We'll use the PSA grading scale for the sake of this particular video. The first thing I notice with this beautiful EX Unseen Forces Lugia Reverse Holo from 2005 is that the holo foil appears to be very clean indeed. I can't see any imperfections, no scratches or print lines. Just to be clear, the four main condition points we will be assessing is the surface, the edges, the corners, and the centering. The surface on the front looks pretty much flawless. And I can't see anything that detracts from the condition of the card on the back surface either. You might be able to see that the centering from left to right is quite significantly off. The ratio is certainly not 50-50 or even, and it certainly does not seem to fall within the 60-40 ratio required for it to be a PSA 10. So I would say that by default, with centering like that, this is going to be a maximum of a PSA 9. If there are any other condition issues which detract from the aesthetic of the card, then that could mark it down even further. Let's now take a look at the back edges and corners. I can't see anything significant. A little bit of whitening down in this corner here. Again, nothing that I think would detract from this card achieving a PSA 9. Let me know I chose this whale lord for a couple of reasons. The main one being that whale lord is the best Pokemon ever. But the second reason being is that this card is actually a Spanish card. And PSA do not grade anything other than English and Japanese beyond the base set. So if I wanted to grade this card, it would have to be with Beckett or CGC. Let's take a look at the condition. Again, the hollow surface looks pretty clean. It's difficult to see on the camera, but I can spot a couple of very, very light imperfections on the top right hand side of the hollow. The surface on the front in general looks fine. I can't see any indents or impressions on the back either. If you can see the bottom right there is a tiny bit of lipping. It's difficult to know exactly how PSA would grade that. They may consider it a factory issue that doesn't particularly detract from the aesthetic of the card in general, or they might consider that it is in fact damage, and it will be marked down accordingly. The centering on this card is far more congruent than the previous. There is no significant difference between the thickness of the border on the left, right, top or bottom. And other than some minor corner wear, I can't see any damage. If I sent this card to CGC or Beckett, I would predict it would achieve an 8.5 to 9 grade, near mint to mint. E-series hollows always have such sparkly Cosmo hollow foils. It's one of the reasons why I love them so very much. This Pidgeot is no exception. This particular Pidgeot is from Japanese Expedition. The hollow foil looks to be very, very clean. I can't see any noticeable print lines or scratches. I can see a beautiful swirl though. I love the deep red artwork on this. It's quite ominous. Pidgeot looks to be diving towards, well, an enemy or perhaps I find it very difficult to judge the centering on these cards because of the thick left and bottom borders, but I would predict that the centering is within PSA 10 parameters. There is some very minor whitening on the bottom left-hand corner. It could mean that the card gets a PSA 9, but I still think that it's within PSA 10 boundaries. One thing I did want to address is the fact that, as you can see, the card is quite bowed. This would not usually cause the card to be marked down, and is not considered an issue of condition. However, if the card is so significantly bowed that it will not fit in the PSA holder, it will not be graded and will be returned outside of a holder. Lastly, we have this beautiful Vaporeon Holo from Japanese Magma vs Aqua. This is a card I discovered quite recently when looking at the EX Sandstorm set in English. I was going to try to find the reverse holo to purchase, and I noticed this beautiful card. There is not a holofoil version in English as far as I am aware. One thing I did not note with the previous card is the fact that it was first edition, just like this one. With most Japanese sets, the first edition print run is quite significant and far more comprehensive than the English equivalent print run. Most Japanese sets from the E-series through EX era and Diamond and Pearl for that matter are more rare in Unlimited than first edition, but that is not always the case. There are also some expansions which had no Unlimited print run at all. Off the top of my head, I believe the Versus series might have been one of those, but please do correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. The surface on this card looks pretty clean. There's a couple of minor imperfections that I can see. I can't see any indentations or impressions. I can't see any edge wear on the back. The centering looks pretty consistent on all borders. I would say that this card is likely to get a PSA 9. Finally, let's take a look at an already graded card that I recently purchased. You might recognize it from my Aquapolis videos. It's one of my favourite Aquapolis artworks, subcategories I mentioned at the beginning of the video. The centering, edges, and surface all achieved a 9.5. However, the corners only achieved an 8.5, meaning that the maximum grade this card could achieve is a 9. The overall grade can only be 0.5 higher than the lowest subgrade. So even if all of the other subgrades were 10, it would still achieve a 9. From my experience and from having a look at this card already, generally speaking, where the 9.5 subgrade is present, it's almost impossible to see any imperfections, and this is no exception. The centering looks basically perfect, the surface looks basically perfect, and the edges on the back look basically perfect. However, the bottom left corner has quite a noticeable bit of whitening, which appears to be the only real imperfection on the whole card, leading it to get that 8.5 subgrade. If I was to send this card to PSA, I would guess that it would receive a PSA 9. Thankfully, the damage is on the back, and personally, I really don't mind very much when the damage is on the back, because I appreciate the cards from the front. It's a beautiful sparkly hollow foil. Such a fantastic artwork, and I'm very excited to own this card, as well as my PSA 10 version. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I tried a new setup today, with a new microphone, with stereo output, as you can probably hear. Please do let me know what you think. Next time I will be doing a video with more triggers, more tapping, more crinkles, more specific word whispering, etc. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this condition appraising PSA